Welcome back to another week of True Treats. It's week 10, and you know what that means? It's Packer time. Yes, it's the Green Bay Packers taking on the Minnesota Vikings. For those Green Bay Packers, we're making a beer cheese soup, and for the Minnesota Vikings, we're doing a Lutefisk. Check it out. We're in the kitchen here making a beer cheese soup for the Green Bay Packers. We've already got our pot over here. It's heated up. It's about just over medium. A little bit of olive oil in the pan. We're going to take all these vegetables that we just chopped up, carrots, celery, and onion, throw them right into our pan. We're just going to want to cook them just a little bit there so they start to brown and get tender, which means when you check for tenderness, you'll want to check your carrots because they're the densest vegetable that we've got there, so they will take the longest to cook. With our vegetables, we're going to add in some of our seasonings. About a tablespoon of garlic. Oh, a good amount of black pepper in there so you get a nice even covering over all of your vegetables. Just a shake or two of some cayenne for a little kick. Always add a little bit of salt, helps bring out the flavors of all of the food that you've got cooking there. Take a little spoon, we'll just let that stir, tender up and brown just a little bit here. And last summer, actually, we got to head out to Green Bay itself. I think I told you just last week that we were in Chicago visiting my sister and her now fiance. So we were up and took a trip up to visit the old Lambeau Stadium, the home of the Green Bay Packers. And you know what we noticed there is, well, they sell cheese everywhere and they make beer everywhere. So we took a tour of a beer factory. And you know what we found out? You know what they do with the leftover mash when they make beer? They feed it to all the cows. You know why they have such good cheese in Wisconsin? Because they feed it to all the cows. You got happy drunk cows walking around making cheese. Of course it's the land of cheese. So what do? We took those two ingredients and we're making our dish, our beer cheese soup. Vegetables, they're nicely browned. Garlic's going on in there. All those good flavors. So we'll add in, well, let's do our chicken broth first here. We're going to do about 3 cups of the chicken broth. And 1, 2, might need to give it a little squeeze to help get it out there a little faster. And 3. Got our chicken broth, that's going to help build up a little bit of substance and also give us some more flavor for our soup. And then we'll throw in our beer, since it's a beer cheese soup. We're using a Pilsner from Red Hook. Delicious beer. We live in Oregon, home of microbrews. Well, maybe not the official home, but we have more than anybody else. We've got some good beer here in Oregon, so take advantage. We're going to do about 2 cups of beer, which is great because this beer happens to have more than 2 cups in it, which means we get to save a little bit for the cooks. Yeah, that's always a cooking secret there, is make sure you save a little bit for yourself so you can try all of your ingredients, make sure you know they're good. Boom, got our chicken broth in. We got our beer in, all of our ingredients, our spices. We're going to add a little bit of sambal to kick up that spice just a little bit, a little squeeze in a circle. Perfect. Now we'll just let those stew. We'll build the base using our roux, get our cheese sauce going, and then our soup's almost done. Our vegetables, beer, everything is stirring up, stewing up quite nicely. The smells are really starting to bust out of that pan right there. So what we're going to do now is build a base for our soup. To do that, we're going to start with a roux. We've actually made a roux before here on True Treats. We did it, I believe, all the way back in week 1 when we made our clam chowder. Same process here. We're going to take our butter, throw it in the pan. We're going to add our flour. We're going to mix that around, stir it so it starts to cook, and it'll create that nice film on the bottom of the pan. That means we're actually cooking the flour flavor out. Then we're going to add in our milk, and you want to constantly stir again until it gets nice and smooth so you don't worry about burning your milk. After the milk, we're going to throw in about a pound of shredded up cheddar cheese. Again, constantly stirring because we don't want anything to clump or burn. We'll continue till that's nice and smooth. Then we're going to mix our 2 pans together, add in a few more seasonings, and then it's time to eat our soup. While you are preparing your roux, you want to make sure that as you move through each step of the process, you fully complete it before moving on to the next. When you're melting your butter, make sure it's fully melted before you add your flour. And when you're cooking down your flour, make sure that it's smooth with no lumps before you move on to adding the milk. If you take this care with each step in the process, you will end up with a smooth, velvety sauce that has no lumps or the taste of flour in it, which means all you get is the taste you were looking for. You'll notice that when we were adding the milk, we did it in several phases. This is so that we could continue to stir the flour and smooth it out as we added in our milk. That way when the full amount was added in, we had a nice smooth consistency as you just saw. Once we have that consistency, it's time to move on to our ingredients for our sauce. Since we're making a beer cheese soup, that means cheddar cheese. Once again, we took our full pound of cheddar cheese and we added it in different sections so we could again smooth the sauce and make sure it begins to melt before we add in the full amount. If you dumped it all in at once, you'd end up with a big globby mess. It would be hard to get the smooth, velvety consistency that you're looking for. Continue stirring and very shortly you will notice that the clumps will go away and you will get that smooth, velvety consistency that we're looking for. Now we just take this and add it to the beer and vegetable broth we made earlier, and our soup is almost done.
Alright, so we have the Minnesota Vikings playing this week too, and we had a little issues finding something to make for them. We found one thing called Lutefisk, and we found also a lot of boring casseroles. We ran across so many different Minnesota Vikings, like people talking about their culture, the recipes, and how it was all pretty much blah and boring. So we decided to go with Lutefisk and rooting into it, and that's pretty gross too. Originally, it's like salted fish that you're supposed to put outside for 3 weeks, and then you bring it in and soak it in lye, and then cook it slowly, and it becomes this like gelatinous jelly thing that slides down that tastes like fish. It just, yeah. So we didn't go with that. What we're pretty much doing is our own made-up version. We're going to kind of dedicate to Vikings, but we don't like the Vikings anyways because we're Packer fans. So here's a poop on you, Vikings.
We took our cured fish and we threw it in a pan with just a little bit of water, added some pepper, and brought it back to life. While our fish is finishing, we'll finish our soup. To do that, we add a little bit of ground wet mustard, some Worcestershire sauce, and a little bit of ground dry mustard. Then we stir and just let it thicken to the desired consistency. Then it's time to grab a ladle and spoon it up. Thank you for joining us and enjoying another week of True Treats. Remember, you can always check out the links down below for more information that we just could not fit into this video. Plus, you can always find us on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook. Give us a comment, let us know how we're doing, what dishes you might like to see for the upcoming games, the cities that you live in. My friend Cheesehead Bob here and I wish those Packers good luck against those Vikings. And thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.